Europe just handed a golden handshake to President Trump. First, NATO allies caved to his 5% defense spending demand, and now they've inked a colossal trade pact that tilts entirely in America's favor. Now, many European readers are expressing concern over a new trade deal with the U.S. Here's more.
It's a good deal. It's a huge deal. We came to good conclusions for both sides.
The ink is barely dry on what can only be described as a transactional armistice, brokered under the undeniable pressure of American economic might. The US and EU clinched a trade agreement on Sunday that will see EU exports taxed at 15%.
So I just want to congratulate you. I think it's great that we made a deal today instead of playing games and maybe not making a deal at all.
This deal creates certainty in uncertain times. It delivers stability and predictability for citizens and businesses on both sides of the Atlantic. This is a deal between the two largest economies in the world. We trade 1.7 trillion euros per year.
The deal obliges the EU to purchase a staggering $750 billion worth of American energy during Trump's term. The bloc has pledged an additional $600 billion in investments inside the US economy, an economic stimulus not for the continent. The French Prime Minister François Bayrou has slammed the deal as a dark day for the free peoples of Europe.
Et donc, cet effet-là,
the United States has decided to impose by force a new law of the jungle that no longer respects the international trade rules we had for decades, rules that fostered the prosperity of our respective countries.
et qui faisait la prospérité de nos pays.
Italy says it's positive about the US-EU trade deal, but seeks more clarity.
I don't know exactly what we are referring to when it comes to investments concerning gas and others. I am unable to evaluate this until I have clear data. Obviously, it will be necessary to study the details of the agreement.
Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, without mincing words, says that Trump did not reach an agreement with Ursula von der Leyen, but rather he ate the EU chief for breakfast. The US and EU will have 0-for-0 tariffs on aircraft and plane parts, certain chemicals, and some agricultural products. However, lingering punitive tariffs on European steel and aluminium remain unresolved, signaling ongoing vulnerabilities.
I think in economic terms, what we see as evidence is that it's probably very manageable for the EU. And to some extent, this is a Pyrrhic victory for Trump. Because there is agreement among economists that putting 15% tariff on your closest trading partner is a stupid idea. It's a bad idea. It's not something that will be to the detriment of your own economy more than anything else.
Europe, cornered by economic stagnation and strategic uncertainty for now, has decided not to risk escalating a trade war that could have hurt European companies more than Trump's tariffs already have. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Joining us live on the broadcast is Mark Brolin, geoeconomic and geopolitical strategist and author. Thank you so much for joining us on WION. The French Prime Minister calls it a dark day for Europe. How do you look at the concerns by some European leaders over this new trade deal between the European Union and the United States?
Well, I think calling it a dark day is perhaps a little bit over the top, since there were fears it would be much worse. Having a trade war is not a good thing either. But I would say it is a dark-ish. No doubt Europe really hates uncertainty, or Brussels hates uncertainty, and Trump knowingly enjoys it in a bit. So that plays in to his strengths in a way. So in that sense, it was a bad deal for Europe, absolutely, no doubt about that. And I think we can say as well that Washington has outplayed Brussels and Berlin. But I think two things were key in this scenario, how it played out. And I think one is that German economy is in really bad shape, and they couldn't take much more. So I think especially German car industries were pushing for some form of additional certainty. And then we have, of course, the military situation. Trump, like a few others, sort of links the trade issues now. It's now famous that he does. And Europe doesn't want to risk even more of a Ukrainian mess or military spending, US military spending in Ukraine.
And the Europeans would have to buy American oil and gas, and that's a big win for the United States. But do you think ultimately, and I know you alluded to this a little bit, that Europe got less of a bargain, especially when it comes not just to oil and gas, but pharmaceuticals as well?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a heavy concession to America's America First agenda. So Europe, in effect, pays for market access. And it's forced to pay, in a way, to buy oil and gas. Then again, Europe needs US oil and gas following the Russian war. So in that sense, the effect is perhaps slightly less detrimental than reported. But of course, Trump again, he's the winner in this, at least short term.
Right. The deal brings relief, but leaves unresolved questions over how the EU's promise to invest hundreds of billions of dollars in the US and steeply increase energy purchases can really be turned into reality. I mean, ultimately, this deal is on paper, but how do we get this to move forward practically? Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the devil will be in the detail in this. And I think this is actually how Europe might have made a mistake, because I think having arrived at this, even without any of the details in play, means that this is much of a spectacle, possibly from both sides. Possibly this third thing might not actually amount to much, which tells us that also Trump wanted a big, he wanted a deal. He was actually needing a deal as well. And this might be linked a bit to the Weinstein scandal. He wants to have media talk about something else, and he accomplished that too. So in that sense, I think Europe possibly could have pushed a bit more. I think European critics are right in that sense, because he and they perhaps should have pushed a bit more about these concessions, about these details going forward. What is Europe expected to buy in the US? And if it does amount to something, I think we'll probably see vested interests on both sides heavily involved in this. So to the degree that it amounts to something, it might not be good news either for the US or Europe, actually.
Okay, well, thank you so much for all of that. And thank you for coming on WION. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Very nice. Thank you.